2021 marks the beginning of a new stock car organization that has been born with the premier offline world of esports racing, better known as Power. With this comes the introduction of the Power V8 Cup Series, a new and modern American stock car championship tour. Today we'll be covering the ins and outs of Power and highlight how everything will work. Then we'll meet the 18 full-time teams that will compete this season. Let's get you up to speed with the whole entire world of Power. Race formats for the Power V8 Cup Series will go as this. Race lengths will be between 45 minutes to an hour long, with a total of a 25 race schedule that will make up our inaugural championship. After the first 15 races of the season, there will be a 10 race championship gauntlet with the top 10 drivers and points at the remaining 15 races of the regular season. Power specification cars will be used only, so all engines will be rated equally and there will be no DNFs based on engine failures. Fields will be anywhere from 40 to 42 cars, and double file restarts and the race back to the line procedure will be in effect. There will be no green-white checkers, so races can end under caution, and, most crucially, only the top 15 finishers of each race will receive points at all. Those who finish 16th on back will not receive any points. The championship gauntlet will work very similar to the original NASCAR chase format. The regular season championship will cut off after the 15th race, and the top 10 drivers and points will have their points reset even. These drivers will battle it out in the remaining 10 races, where the highest finishing driver at the end of those 10 races will be named the champion. Any driver that is not in the top 10 at the end of the regular season will be ineligible to compete for the said championship, and the first round of the championship gauntlet will begin at the Vermont Motor Speedway, and the remaining round of the championship gauntlet will be at Middle Georgia. It's set to be a very exciting matchup. The top 10 drivers will face 10 different challenging tracks based in different track types. Points format will go as this. First place will receive 30 points, followed by second place with 25, third 22, fourth 20, and fifth place will receive 18. It'll continue to go down 2 points at a time all the way to the 12th position, down to 4 points. Then from 13th, 14th, and 15th is all separated by 1 point, in which case the points is cut off after the 15th place finisher. Those who finish 16th on back will not receive any points. Bonus points can be awarded, and they will go as this. You'll get 2 bonus points for leading 1 lap of the race, 3 for setting the fastest lap, and 5 for achieving the most laps led, meaning the most amount of points one can achieve in a race is 40. But remember, in order to receive these bonus points, you must finish in the top 15. If you aren't in the top 15, you will not be eligible for the bonus points. With this comes our regular season schedule, which will kick off at the premier stock car world of racing, which is the Daytona International Speedway. Then we'll take our trip over to Atlanta, where we'll go to the Atlanta Motor Speedway and Middle Georgia. After that, that'll kick off our West Coast swing, which will go from Denver all the way to Sawmill. One note that should be added is that Sonoma has been replaced by the Golden State Motorsports Park. So we're still going to a road course in California, just not Sonoma. It'll be Golden State. After the West Coast swing, we'll go to Talladega, Bristol, and Charlotte. North Wilkesboro will be our throwback race, with Martinsville, Watkins Glen, and Daytona rounding out the regular season schedule. Our championship gauntlet will begin at the Vermont Motor Speedway, then head to the short track at Bristol, Tennessee, and then a road course in Charlotte for the Charlotte Roval. Then we'll head to New Jersey for another motor speedway, a very high-paced, fast-action track, followed by another short track in Martinsville. Then Talladega, the wild card round of the championship gauntlet, the only super speedway within the final 10 races of the season. Then we'll have 2 road courses at Old Spice and Denver Roval, followed by Phoenix, and the championship round, which will be decided in Middle Georgia. Now that you know how Power works and how the races and the championship schedule will go down, let's take a look at our teams and drivers that will be competing in the inaugural season of the Power V8 Cup Series. This will only be looking at full-time teams, no part-timers. Double or Nothing Motorsports is a real team that was built off of taking a chance. Built by Nick Kennedy, this team was originally planned to be a part-time team, but was then prompted to be a full-time team just weeks before the preseason testing. This team will serve as a satellite team for Jeff Bolton Racing. As said before, it's owned by one of their drivers in Nick Kennedy. The team has hired Landon Laudenbach in the 83, and his main strengths is the speedways and super speedways. Here's a look at one of the many Chevy-backed entries in the field. The Crown in Crown Chevy Racing refers to team owner Roberto Crown Jr., who will drive his number 21 car full-time this season. Crown Jr. has also signed on Kason Cooper to the number 35 and Dylan Hayden for the number 48. One thing that's clear is this team is looking to be strong on the road courses, as both Hayden and Crown Jr. are specialists in the road course field. Meanwhile, Kason Cooper will serve as a short track driver to help them out balance their weakness on the short track between the other two drivers. Otherwise than that, it's very unknown as how CCR will perform on the speedway aspect, but definitely look out for this team as they're going to be one of the many Chevy entries we'll be seeing in the Power V8 Cup Series. Elite Forces Racing is one of the smaller teams on the grid, but they are hoping to have the most strength. Backed by Ford, Roger James will drive his number 3 Ford, while hiring Carson Jefferson to drive the number 94. It's very unclear as to how this team will perform, as their strengths and weaknesses tend to clash with each other, and also the clearness of how strong their car will be is also a unknown. One thing's for sure though, EFR will be looking to pack a 1-2 punch and hopes to be on top of the throne at the end of the season. Look out for the number 93 and the number 94 of Roger James Jr. and Carson Jefferson. Fitzwater Australia Racing looks to be one of the biggest teams on the grid. One of 2 Dodge-powered teams, FAR will have 4 full-time entries this season. Starting with Ruben Gonzalez in the number 26. They will also have Cody Goforth in the 60, Nelson Reeves in the 76, and Zachary Fitzwater will drive his famous number 59. As far as this team's strengths and weaknesses, it looks like they will most likely be the strongest on the speedways, as road courses doesn't seem to be a strong suit for many of the drivers. Fitzwater Sr. looks to be the only road course specialist on the team, so he's going to have to carry that program if they're going to want to be able to succeed off of the oval aspect. As far as this team, we'll just have to see if they can provide the thunder from down under this year and prove that they are one of the top dogs for real and not a pretender. Hopefully FAR will be able to show that their 4 full-time Dodge entries are worth the shot. Another single-car team who originally planned to be part-time before going full-time, John Ritson and Good Smile Racing are coming together to be just one of 3 full-time Mercedes-Benz entries. What this team lacks in numbers, they're hoping to have strength in the engine power, as Mercedes is looking to be one of the strongest in terms of pure power and speed in their cars. But in terms of the amount of drivers that they'll be having, it's not really looking like it's going in their favor. Ritson's strengths will be at the road courses, and his weaknesses are at the short tracks. Jerry Chen Motorsports looked very different a few weeks ago. The original plan was for Jerry Chen himself to drive his own number 36 car. Cam Wright was signed on to drive the number 88 while owning his own 2-car team in the process called C-Team Motorsports. Unfortunately, Jerry Chen has announced just several weeks ago that he will not be racing the full V8 Cup Series schedule, and he is stepping away from racing entirely. Chen would give majority ownership to Cam Wright Sr., and C-Team Motorsports would be shut down completely. Already Alejo would be brought up to drive the renumbered number 2 car to replace Jerry Chen, while Leland Hill would be released from his contract at CT Motorsports and buy out the old CT shop. As far as it's looking, Jerry Chen is only planned to race in the Royalty Grafix 500, and that's it. It's unclear as to whether or not he'll be returning to any form of racing, let alone the Power V8 Cup Series. It'll be interesting to see how JC Motorsports does without JC himself, but hopefully Cam Wright will be able to right the ship. Jeff Bolton Racing will be by far the biggest Ford team on the grid. the only Ford powerhouse to have 4 cars in the main stable, and a 5th satellite team to go with them. Owned by Jeff Bolton himself, he'll be driving his number 34 car. He's also signed on Bradley Ream to the number 9 and JQ Halak to the number 13, being one of the only few female drivers in the series. And finally, he's also brought on Nick Kennedy to the number 68, who owns Double or Nothing Motorsports and is the satellite team for Jeff Bolton Racing, as mentioned earlier. This team definitely will be looking to be one of the biggest teams on the grid, as they technically have 5 full-time entries to their name. Hopefully, the strength in numbers should suit them, as there's not too many other Ford teams other than JBR themselves. Leland Motorsports is a very intriguing team going into the V8 Cup Series schedule. One of the more rushed operations, this team bought out the CT Motorsports shop after Cam Wright was set to take over the JCM shop. This is a family team with both Leland and Riley Hill piloting the number 54 and the number 5 respectively. We'll see how the brotherly duo will do in the V8 Cup Series. Team owner Boston Jones will drive the number 18 Toyota full-time for his team Maximum Motorsports. Toyota is utilizing a lot more smaller teams, as they don't have a team necessarily bigger than 2 full-time entries on the grid. But what they're hoping to do is focus more on the smaller teams and utilize their individual strengths and weaknesses to try to overall have a bigger impact on the field. We'll see how the number 18 Toyota does in the V8 Cup Series. The other 2 full-time Mercedes entries, team owner Henry Brown has tapped Ben Crouch in the number 03 and Ethan Hayden for the 19. Mercedes will only run 3 full-time cars throughout the season, as they plan to bring a total of 7 entries for just the Royalty Grafix 500 alone. Seeming as this team is looking to bank off of just 1 race out of the whole entire 25-race schedule, it should be interesting to see how their main 3 full-time entries do, with 2 of them being in the main Mercedes stable themselves. Look out for Ethan Hayden and Ben Crouch in both Mercedes this season. Another entry in the Bowtie Brigade, Nathan Orman will drive his number 95 Chevy for the full season this year. Orman will have backing from Pennzoil, Hardee's, and DeWalt for his full-time championship efforts. Look out for the number 95 this year in the V8 Cup Series. Miles Mashburn and Chevy have come together to create Robbers Racing, a 3-car team that has signed on Josh Moore to the number 3, Felix Rizzo to the number 95, and Miles Mashburn himself will drive his number 72 car. The team's main strengths look to be on the short tracks, as both Mashburn and Josh Moore seem to be the specialists in that area, and road courses seems to be a weakness that the team isn't really planning on focusing at all during the season, which is crucial considering that it's almost a third of the schedule, just like the speedways and the short tracks themselves. Hopefully Robbers Racing will be able to steal some victories from the competition when they're able to, as they are one of the many Chevy entries in this field, as we've stated before. Look out for Robbers Racing this year with their 3 full-time entries, the 3, 51, and the 72. Parker Enterprises is the latest team to join the V8 Cup grid. After the shutdown of the number 53 team for Adrian Rojas's Rojas Racing Ventures, Blake Parker bought himself a full-time slot and is set to drive the number 07. He will have backing from Twix, Ream, and Tractor Supply Co. Christian Russell opened up the Robin Hood Racing team as a way to expand the Chevy power. Russell will drive his number 39 Chevy with backing from CMR Roofing, Haas CNC, and Jersey Mike's. His main strengths are at the speedways, with his main weakness being the road courses. So hopefully Russell will be able to eke himself out some good races, even though he's a 1-car team. Rojas Racing Ventures originally planned to be a 2-car team at the beginning of the season, with Adrian Rojas in the 65 and Alex Livingston in the 53. That was until Livingston and sponsor Bass Pro Shops backed out of their full-time deal entirely and completely left Rojas stranded. He had to scramble, as he would then end up shutting down that 53 entry and will just race the number 65 himself. The other 4-car Dodge powerhouse on the grid, Ronnie Racing, will have a lineup featuring Adam Wilson in the 00, Owen Scott in the number 15, German driver Karl Untersweffer for the number 43, and Ronnie Martin himself will drive his number 92 car. Interestingly enough, this is the only team on the grid with its own Bitcoin, as the team will be using a virtual currency called Ronnie Coin to allow fans to invest in the team and buy minority ownership into the team in return for Ronnie Coin. We'll have to see if the added investments and fan interaction will take this team to the top, as we said, they're the only other Dodge team apart from Fitzwater Australia Racing. Sinclair Canada Racing is the only Honda-backed team in all of Power, and is the only other international team besides Fitzwater Australia Racing. Owned by Michael Canaday, the team has brought on New Zealand dirt specialist David Dixon to drive the number 45, Myron Felder will drive the number 46, and Priya McShane has been brought on for the number 98, while Michael Canaday himself will also drive in the number 31 car part-time in 10 races this season. It'll be interesting to see how this team does. As we said, they're the only Honda team on the grid, so they will have complete focus from an entire manufacturer. We just have to hope that Honda will be good enough to support their needs. And the final full-time team on the grid is Vortex Racing. Brett Bishop formed Vortex Racing just a few weeks ago prior to preseason testing. Vortex Racing is a 2-car Toyota team that will have Brett Bishop drive his own number 12 and has signed on Christian Vargas to a multi-year deal for the number 08. The team will also run a part-time car for Abel de Groot in the number 27. It'll be interesting to see how Vortex Racing does. Like we said, one of the few Toyota teams, as Toyota is focusing on spreading out their operations through more smaller teams. Well, that's been it for the V8 Cup Series preview. We hope you enjoyed it, and we're excited for the season to kick off. If you'd like, be sure to check out our Instagram at PowerOfficialNR to check out all the latest news, updates, and posts regarding the Power V8 Cup Series and all Power-related news. Coming up this week, we will have the duels and the Royalty Grafix 500, the inaugural race of the Power V8 Cup Series season. We are set to kick off here at Daytona International Speedway, and it is going to be a very, very big event. 54 cars are entered into the field and set to try to make into 42 spots. Later on this week, we will have the Victory Lane Collectables duels, which will set the qualifying grid and determine who will make it into the Royalty Grafix 500. Nobody is locked in, so everybody has the same chance to get into the great race. We hope to see you there, and we are excited to kick off the Power V8 Cup Series season.